Hello everyone, my name is Deanna Squire and this presentation will be about for and foreach loops in PHP. I'm sorry it's a little late to help in this week's assignment, but hopefully it will give you a glimpse of why they are important and how you can use them in the future. Okay, now some of you may be wondering, like I did, about what for and foreach loops are, as well as what the differences are between the two. For loops are used in situations where you know just how far the script needs to advance. These could be situations like making a list of numbers or adding numbers in increments. For example, we all used for loops in exercise 7-2 to get the drop-down menu values for the investment and for the percentage. A for each loop is a little bit different. This is where you already have made an array that has values in it and you want to display those values. Like it says here, this loop goes through each of the key/value pairs in the said array. This would be helpful in situations where you have created a list of items and wanted to display it without having to count the amount of values you have in an array, or in situations where you get user input for the array and therefore you don't know how many keys there will be in the array, and it'll just keep looping until the array is done. All right, so now that we know what they are and how they work, here's some examples of how to code them. Let's start with the for loop. First, you want to set up the loop by typing for and the parameters you want to use. These parameters will be the init counter, which is the value you want to start at, which is 0 right now. So it's this one right here. Then you've got the, let me see if I can find my notes here, the test counter, how far you want to go or how long you want the loop to run for. In this case, we want it to run until it hits 10. Using the greater or less than symbol and the equals just means that we want our counter to go to 10 or be less than 10, less than or equal to. That's how you say it right. Then the third parameter would be the increment counter. This tells the loop how often it should be counting up or down. In this case, a double plus sign means that we want it to increase one at a time. However, if you want to increment this by 2, all you would have to do is change the double plus sign to a plus and equal sign, and then add the number 2 after that. So this plus would stay, you would change this to an equals, and then put the number 2. If you want it to count down, you just change the plus to a minus, equals -2 sign. So you could start at maybe 100, and you wanted to go down to 50, and you wanted to do it by 2s. It would count it down for you. So let's check and see how this works in actually get the example to run, and it's probably not, so I'll have to back out of here really quick. There we go. Okay, so in here, you can see that the loop has run all 10 times. It's counted out, it's echoed out this number, the number is that value that we wanted to increment by. And then it breaks it and drops down a line. So the number is 0, we started it out at 0, then we want to increase by 1 up to 10. It's really helpful when you don't want to have to write out all those values in your code. Okay, so let's go back to that PowerPoint. Get this going again. Okay, for each loop, this is a little bit different, like I said before, in the way it's set up as well. First, you need to have an array to use. So the array that we created here is the colors array. You can write an array just by using this, put in the values you want. In some situations, you may want to make it an input for the users to be able to put in their own values. Then you'll want to type for each, and put in the parameters, you'll put in the array name, so this colors, and then a variable to use for each of the values. So we just say, we want to pull from this array and make each of our values the variable value. Then below, in order to show it, you need to do the echo statement. You're going to echo out a value and then put a break in so we can tell, we're continuing on. But for this example, you could change it to a user input. This example that I found online was just an array that they had created, but I think in the future it'll probably help in those situations where you're getting user input from it. So let's take a look at how this turned out, and this time the link is actually going to work. So in here you can see we've set up the array, we have all these values, we're counting it out. You've got red, green, blue, and yellow. In order to change it to count the full array, I know in HTML it's a little bit different. You actually have to do like array length. In this case, I don't think you would have to, even with user input. But don't quote me on it. I'll definitely look into that and get some extra feedback on the discussion board about it. I think that's pretty much it. Let me get back to the presentation here. So I used W3 Schools for this PowerPoint. Very helpful when it comes to learning new coding. That's it for the presentation, and I hope it helps you better understand the for and Foreach loops a little more. Let me know if you have any more questions about it. I'll post this in the discussion board as well as my PowerPoint, so you can have those links to the W3 School examples. Thanks so much for watching.